All right, guys, welcome to the first installment of Rod Battles. Today, we're going to compare two older Dobyns rods, some oldies but goodies. Start with these rods because I have them, and these are maybe some rods that I might go to upgrade, but I think there are a lot of people that are looking to upgrade older rods. Maybe they have found rods used on Bass or Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, a fishing forum, etc., and they're wondering, hey, do I want to invest in this rod, this older rod? You can't find much information on these newer rods, or you want to compare an older rod to a newer rod. So I'm going to compare a couple of rods, and we'll do a series of these so you get a good feel for how these rods stack up against some of the older generation Dobyns and some of the newer ones. And we're going to cover those today. Today we're looking at the Champion Pre-XP 734c. This is a favorite of many, many anglers, a workhorse of a rod, a do-it-all rod, and we're going to break down why that is and why it's so popular. And compare that against the 734c Coalition Weapon Dobyns rod, which is kind of a unique, hard to find unicorn, kind of highly sought after rod if you're a big Dobyns fan. So these are similar action rods from different series from a similar time period. So the Pre-XP Champion series rod, which is one of their original flagship rod models, comprised of a high modularized graphite rod blank, zero tangle Keegan guides with SICK or SIC inserts, Kevlar wrapping, a Fuji graphite reel seat, which you can see right there, and AA grade cork. They always have pretty decent cork on these rods. Now this rod's very old, but you can see that cork is still in really good condition. This rod is probably as old as my kids, if not older. You know it's the Champion because of the distinct blue finish. So you got the kind of the dark gray blank with the blue accents and the blue text. All Dobyns rods have the model number listed there, along with the rating of the rods. Both these rods come in at 7 foot 3 inches, 4 power casting series, rated for 10 to 20 pound line, quarter ounce to 1 ounce weights. Recommended baits: spinner baits, buzz baits, Senkos, horny tones, jigs, small swim baits. I think all that is pretty accurate, and I have fished most of those baits on these rods. And I've done a whole lot more with them. The Coalition Weapon Series rod, which is a special edition rod for the Army bass anglers. It was kind of a joint venture back in the day with them. It was only out for a few seasons, a few years. High modulus graphite blank as well at a slightly lower price point. This rod came in at just under $200. It also has the zero tangle Keegan guides at the time, but with Elkanite inserts instead. Painted Fuji reel seat with the Dobyns logo on it there, Kevlar wrapping, and then a split grip cork. So you had exposed handle here on the blank. So that's one difference. The 734 was a full handle. They do make this in a split handle, but my particular one is a full handle rod. Fit and finish of these rods is standard for the time. There's nothing really crazy or wow about these, but they are nicely done. The craftsmanship on the guides and the wrapping is pretty good. They hold up. They're very durable. There are some nice access finishes and touches of the logo of Dobyns rods on the back. You do have the feel-through blank on the 734c where you can put your hand depending on how you like to grip a rod. And then the foregrip of the blank is exposed with a hook keeper slightly off-center on the top of the blank. Exposed blank as well on the Coalition. The one thing is the Coalition has a very unique kind of desert camo pattern that's kind of overlaid on the rod that gives it a really unique, distinct finish, which has made it very popular and kind of an eye catcher in a lot of people's minds, and it kind of made it highly sought after. Has the same exact 7.4 line rating, weights, lure recommendations, but the actions aren't exactly the same. Even though they're both heavy, fast action rods, they do have slightly different actions, and we're going to compare those here in just a second. So the Pre-XP Champion came in at 4.75 ounces for the full grip version, compared against the Coalition, which came in at 4.35 ounces, but with split grip. So I'm guessing that main difference is in the lack of the handle. I think if you compared both full grips or full split grips, the Champion would be a touch lighter, although they're very similar in weight. Overall, the Coalition series was pretty close to the price point of the Savvy, and I think from a sensitivity and feel standpoint, if you are familiar with the old Savvy series lineup, you would find that there will be some similarities in the blanks and how they feel and react. All right, another thing I appreciate about the Dobyns rods is their balance point. So most of these rods balance really well in hand. With this Pareto E, it's slightly above the grip, so it depends on how you, this one's a little far forward. Not too bad. The split handle with a full handle, it probably just a little bit further back, but it's pretty good in hand. It's a little tip heavy compared to the pre-XP. That is a little bit closer, right where your finger would normally rest. So I would say the balance, give the nod to the balance, the pre-XP. Much more balanced in hand, especially if you like to choke up on the rod a little bit. And depending on where you like to grip, that's going to affect how you feel a rod is balanced. For me, I hold the rod, usually 2 fingers in front of there like that, and that feels really good in hand, and you're going to get that balance point just in front of that, that ring or the nut to tighten the reel down. The Coalition actually has 9 guides plus a tip, whereas the Champion has 10 plus a tip. So you get 1 more guide and spread over the rod. So you're getting some extra components, less spacing between your line, a little more in that respect to carry the load and carry the line through the guides. If you compare the actions of these rods on a bend test here, and you hold them out like this, you'll see that that Champion is a little softer. Even holding it on the exact same spot, it bends a little further in the blank. So it's slightly softer or slightly slower action, whereas the Coalition will be slightly faster, higher action rod, a little stronger. You can also see in the way they load that they load slightly different. You're going to get more flex down on the ground. With the Champion XP, it's going to be a slightly slower action, even with that extra guide placement. Looking at them, how do they load into the guide? You can see they're definitely a moderate to heavy action rod, fairly fast. Most of that comes in the tip, but you do get into this, section of the blank with both rods before you really get into the meat. I would say you get into that 4th, 5th guide before it really starts to load up. Giving you that same look here with the pre-XP Champion. It does come in just a touch deeper. It's not probably super noticeable unless you're looking at them side by side. So let's talk about what I like these rods for. This rod here, lately has become a preferred swim jig rod for me. I really like the castability, the length, the action, just that little bit of extra softness in the tip and the backbone lets the fish take in the swim jig really good. They get the bait in their mouth, and then plenty of power and hook set to get them up.
Here we go. There's our last
show you several examples. You catch really good fish. So I throw a lot of 1/4 ounce Super K swim jigs and things like that. I have flipped beavers on this. I have thrown big topwaters on this. I've thrown spinner baits. I've thrown 1/2 ounce lipless crankbaits. It's definitely a workhorse. I've thrown small swim baits on this rod. It does a lot of things really well. It's probably not amazing at many techniques. I would say swim jig is probably my favorite technique for this, but it does a lot of things really well. So if you're looking for a rod to put in your lineup in that 7.3, heavy action with still kind of that moderate action or that kind of slow action that will be good enough for swim baits and spinner baits and things like that. You could even throw buzz baits on this. It does a ton of things really, really well. You can put braid on it, you can put fluorocarbon on it. I mainly fish fluorocarbon on it, but you can do a ton of things. So if you're looking like a jack of all trades rods in the Dobyns Champion Series, the 734 is an awesome choice. Whether you go full grip or split handle, you really can't go wrong. It's a workhorse. They sell a ton of them. They're super popular. Now, how does that compare to the Coalition? Like we showed before, that Coalition's got a little bit faster action. I tend to run braid on this, so I also will fish swim jigs on this, but sometimes I'll bump up to 40-pound braid and fish heavier swim jigs in thicker cover. I will throw horny toads on this. I will throw bigger topwaters like ploppers, choppos, big walking baits, things like that. Smaller swim baits as well. Buzz baits. I throw a lot of buzz baits on this. So the main thing is because this is a little bit stronger, faster action, I'll use this in slightly heavier cover with slightly heavier line and braid. And then the other rod is more of my fluorocarbon swim jig type rod. That's how I like to use them. But this thing, both these rods will handle small jigs. You can flip Texas jigs with them. You could drag football jigs. They're both amazing rods. If you find either one of these rods used in a marketplace or a board, they'd be a great pickup if you get them for a good price. Right. The Champion XPs and the pre-XPs, $250 to $260 for this model rod. And then back in the day when they had the Coalition, this rod came in at right around $200. All right. As we continue to work on this series, I'd love to hear what you guys think. Is there anything you want to see? Are there different angles, different ways to look at these rods, different questions, besides the weights and the actions and the way I broke them down? If there's more detail you want to see, leave me leave me some comments down below what you want to see. We'll get them worked into the next round. There's going to be a whole bunch more of these coming very soon. If you really want this coalition rod, let me know. I might be upgrading to maybe some new series rods, and I might be willing to part with this. So leave me a comment or send me a DM on Instagram, HellaBass. If you guys want to continue to catch more big bass and suck less, check out some of these videos coming up right here.